on, everybody, it's me, Troy, and I'm here with a FauxCast video. Well, it really is not a video, right? I call it FauxCast, fake podcast. Y'all, okay, anyway, let's get into this. So, I literally, to putting a little shortness on my vocabulary, I'm trying to keep away from the word literally, but that is a fact. Finished reading this book, Abby Cooper, Psychic Eye, written by Victoria Laurie. It is the first book in her A Psychic Eye mystery series following her clairvoyant, psychic, oral reading, 32-year-old protagonist Abby Cooper, or Abigail Cooper, Abby for short. This is a book that I've always wanted to read because I like to read about different hooks and mysteries. So reading about a psychic, detective, or amateur sleuth really tickled my fancy, the opportunity to do so. And so, as I said, I just finished reading it, and I gotta say, it really kind of got on my nerves in certain areas as it regards things that kind of, pet peeves that I have in mysteries or cozy mystery series. It hit some of those points. But I will say, ultimately, I'm really not gonna go further. I think that this was a book that I just had to read to get out of my system, driven by that interest of a psychic protagonist. Now, with that out of the way, first let me just tell you guys what it's about, and then we'll get into what really just made me be like, no ma'am. So first of all, the story is about, like I said, a 32-year-old psychic woman named Abigail, or Abby Cooper. She runs this psychic shop. Well, I don't like the word shop, but she just runs this psychic business where she gathers clients. They come and set up appointments. They come in asking her questions related to love, finances, whatever. This stuff. I really don't even have to explain it. But anyway, she employs her many different talents of clairvoyancy, and she sees what the answer is. Well, to me, it's much more she just gives advice. I think one of the biggest things that she wants to make clear to her clients is that free will is always available. All she can do is just give them a little nudge in whatever is the most optimal direction for the answers, or for the outcome that they seek. But anyway, the biggest selling point is the fact that she's a psychic, okay? So with that being said, at one point in the book, she's getting dressed to go on a date, and she ends up seeing this news feed revolving around this young boy that was kidnapped. His mother is on the, speaking, asking for any information related to his kidnapping. And then, of course, her psychic abilities begin to pick up on some little nuggets of information related to not only the boy's faith, but also who is behind it. Nevertheless, Abby proceeds to go on a date with a guy named Dutch that she met on a dating website, and then they begin to converse, and that's when the topic switches over to that of that particular case. And then she reveals that, she does have psychic abilities, and those psychic abilities have lent themselves to that case, so she has some information that not even anyone else is privy to. Come to find out that Dutch is actually a homicide detective. And that is where the connection between these two lie. Now, however, what's interesting about this book is while that case of that missing child and the mother and et cetera, is a part of the connection between those two characters coming together or joining, it really is, that's not the primary issue here. The primary issue revolves around these two women, who end up finding themselves murdered. The main woman is a woman named Allison, who months previous was found murdered in her room. It looked like from a suicide due to a gunshot to the head. There was even a note left that regarded her suicide, or suicide note, and there was also her wedding dress that was all ripped up to shreds. Her sister Allison suspects that it was not a suicide, so she ends up employing Abby at one point to help her find some more further information revolving around her sister's death. However, Allison then subsequently ends up being murdered, and then the connection between Abby and her date, the police detective Dutch, comes together in the form of this case, because Dutch is assigned to figure out what happened to Allison. And then, of course, he and Abby come together to further unfold the who the culprit is behind both of these women's murder. And that is kind of where the book jumped off. So, Abby Cooper's Psychic Eye. What did I think about this book? I'm gonna make this video quick. I really do have a problem with protagonists, that's so plural there, in cozy mystery series or any book in general, who is just, I've always said this before, they just they need a little bit touch more of maturity. Like, this character is 32 years old and she's acting much more like she's 17. Oh, well, that kind of frustrated me with this book, with this character. But I will say this, even though that was one of the things that drove me slightly crazy, I think the saving grace of all of that is the fact that the character was psychic. So that kind of saved her to me. That gave her a little bit more potential than some of the many other cozy mystery female protagonists, and sometimes males. I got problems with them too, that I often see in this particular subgenre. So while she was making a lot of crazy and illogical and foolish and silly choices, as well as throwing out some corny one-liners, her abilities as a psychic really saved her to me. So on that note, I may in the future pick up the second book in the series. I don't quite know yet. So let's see. Another thing that, like I said, as I keep in context with what I was getting on my nerves about this book, is the romance. Oh my God, these authors are so desperate to plug in the romance. Oh my goodness. And it just be the most corniest romances ever. Like, I don't even think it almost feel like with a cozy mystery, when the authors try to put in a romance, they try to, it's just like, is this how it really work? The man is so hungry for the main protagonist, and he so desperately wants to kiss her, and she so desperately is that how it work? I was just like, oh my God, these two, it really started to hit the breaches when he rescued her from a bad date and she ends up jumping on his motorcycle and wrapping her arms around. I was like, oh my God, here we go. And then she's storming up to the house, and John not to look back at him as he revs up his motorcycle to speed off in this whole James Dean or whatever kind of fashion. It's just like, oh my God, this is so corny. And since when did he drive a motorcycle anyway? Like, they just want to make this stuff work. You know what would have been cool? Like, I think that introduce the character, and then I always suggest, like, maybe about the third book, then let the feelings start to come in. You know how, like, when you like somebody or you hang out with somebody for a long time, and then all of a sudden, after a long time, you just look at them differently, like, oh my God, this person is actually really cute. You know what I'm saying? Like, that would have been nice if they done it that way, but it's just like, oh my goodness. And then, of course, with this book, they get into these areas in the story where they're combative with one another, arguing and stuff like that. It's just like, okay, whatever. But anyway, romances and cozy mysteries and mysteries in general, they're really never my cup of tea unless they're done right. And this, I can say, was one of the most corniest displays of romances ever. Good for a lot of people, that's fine, but for me it was just like, girl, just like, let's just wait until like the third book to do all this. But it's okay, because this is the first book and that helps sales, and that's fine, because that's just how it works. Romances sell. So let's go ahead and get into what I thought about the mystery part. So like I said, there's two different, really 1.5 investigative threads going on here. That's the one with the child, and then there's the one with the two sisters. So going between the two, the investigation about the missing child, they got the least amount of attention and was really there to facilitate this connection between Abby and Dutch as a romantic partnership, as well as a crime fighting, you can say, duo. That investigative premise was far more interesting than the murder of the two twin women, Allison and Alyssa. Far more interesting. I wished almost that the author would have threw the Allison and Alyssa storyline away and dug deeper into the issue with the young boy being missing and his mother, and it was just like a lot of little different things that she quickly put in there to just like I said, to facilitate this connection. So with that being said, the Allison and Alyssa investigation I found to be convoluted for no reason, complicated for no reason. I don't say that to say that it was difficult to follow, but there were so many dips in sort of the contextualization of it that, you know, and what I mean by that is, what are we looking at here? You just see what I'm saying? Like, it's a mystery, granted, but with these two sisters, what are we actually looking at here? You know, contextually, what are we looking at here? Because it wasn't connecting with me. It might have been a lot more, it might have been clearer to other people, but to me it wasn't. And I want to say the reason why is because, number one, we never really got enough of, well, Alyssa was killed off stage, and Allison we only saw maybe about one time in a scene. But I think the really big problem I had with that particular area of investigation that was the fuel to this book is that we never really got to see the killer until the very end of the book. You know, that kind of blew the fun out of it. You just spring the killer on us at the very end. Like, you give us a slew of different characters in between, but you make it very clear within that slew of characters that we're introduced to that none of them could have anything to do with the murder of those two girls. There weren't enough clues redirecting the reader, on top of there weren't any suspects who had the viable role of being the actual killer. That's why he just popped up at the very end of the book. Frustrating. Absolutely frustrating. You know, it's just like you lost me there. And on top of that, one of the things that did happen in the last 50 pages of the book is when the romance and the mystery started to clash. And that's when all the drama involving Abby and Dutch started to come into a head and clash with the actual mystery. And what I mean by drama is they got into an argument, and here go Abby, knowing that she is being sought by the killer as some evidence, as proof of that has been given within the book. Here she go running around the whole city because she's mad at Dutch. You know, there's a man trying to kill you, and you running out through the city because you mad at Dutch. I'm not gonna give away the reason why. Stuff like that annoys me. I hate when characters do stupid stuff like that, especially because of a romance. And the ending was extremely predictable in terms of how the resolution or how the final scene was going to come about. Of course it was going to happen in Abby's office. Of course it was going to happen while she knew that she was actually being sought by the killer as his next potential victim. Of course Dutch was going to be pretty much nearby to help save the day. So predictable. And another pet peeve of mine in mysteries is when, oh my goodness, when things black out and then all of a sudden the main protagonist wakes up in the hospital in what is generally given the epilogue or the chapter before the epilogue after being attacked by the killer. Annoying. Super annoying. Oh my god, so annoying. And on top of even that, the killer never got to explain his point of view of the whole thing. So I was just like, you know what? No, 3 stars. 3 stars. So that's pretty much it. I don't know. I really don't know. I think I'm much more interested in reading the author's new series following a life coach. I'm going to give that a whirl, and then we'll see what happens. Thanks for watching. That's it.